we find ourselves on the horns of a dilemma, so to speak, because there was a consensus arrived at that when human love, in all its forms, up to and including unconditional love, have played themselves out in our life or are dead, so to speak, that only love remains. And the question is asked, well, what is this love that remains when all of human love is gone? But then it's been agreed that the answer to this question lies beyond our perceptions or our conditioned mind. So that leaves us with this dilemma. What is and where do and how do we find the answer to this question of what is this love that remains when all human love is gone? How do we answer this question? There was a monk. He was walking down the street of a town when he came to one of those little stalls that sells kebabs. And the smell was so tantalizing. As he walked past, he took in a deep breath to savor the flavor of these kebabs. When all of a sudden a little boy came running out from behind the stall and he said, I saw you, my father says that smells are our business and you're stealing our business. So the monk looked at him very compassionately and said, oh yes, I'm so very sorry. And he let out a deep, deep breath. And the little boy sighed and went off very contentedly back behind his father's stall. Then there's a story about a very excitable young man, but he was one who had these highs and these lows. But he went off to his rabbi one day, and when he burst in the door to his rabbi's office, he was waving a book in front of Rabbi, this book tells me that I'm the Messiah. Is it true? Is it true? Well, the rabbi knew of this young man's state, and he didn't want to plummet him into any kind of depths of depression or lows. So he looked at him also with great compassion, and he said, oh, my son, it's quite possible. And so the young man was very content, and he dashed off. But that night, the rabbi got a phone call from the young man's mother, and the rabbi was in trepidation because he thought he was going to get a good scolding from the mother. How did you say that to my son, feeding his delusions like that? But the mother said, Rabbi, is it true? And if it's true, is it possible? Could it be that I'm the Messiah's mother? Then there's that old story, about that time long ago, maybe a little bit like today, we might even say, when the churches, the synagogues, the temples were devoid of people mostly. People were more interested in worldly things than they were in going to church or visiting the monastery garden or going to the temples. And there was a certain monastery hidden in a valley far, far away that had fallen into a great state of decrepitude. The paint was peeling off the walls, and the walls were crumbling. The only ones left in this place were a few old monks who shuffled around the cloister, going about their business. But not far from where the monastery was located was a little retreat house that a rabbi from a synagogue in the city would come to from time to time to rest and contemplate. Well, we know the way of these things when we're cloistered for a very long time. There are certain qualities, certain powers, you might say, that come to one. And so it was with these old monks and their abbot. Because whenever the rabbi came to take up residence in retreat, the monks at the monastery knew that he was there, and they would whisper to themselves, "Oh, the rabbis come, the rabbis come." So one day, the old abbot of the monastery was inspired. He thought to himself that he would go and visit the old rabbi. So he donned his going out cloak and made his way to the little retreat house in which the rabbi had taken up residence. And they greeted each other so warmly, embracing one another with that certain knowing that comes to one. And as they sat commiserating about the state of the world and how it had fallen into this place where people no longer came to worship, they no longer demonstrated devotion. They wept a little bit together. But as the abbot was taking his leave from the rabbi, the abbot said, "Is there nothing that can be done?" "Oh," said the old rabbi, "but the Messiah is one of you." The abbot was greatly shocked, and when he went back to his monastery, all the old monks were waiting for him and said, "What did the rabbi say? What did the rabbi say?" The old abbot said he said something very strange. He said that the Messiah was one of us. "Oh," said the monks, scratching their heads. But in the days that followed, as the monks were going about their business, they found themselves, when they met one another in the cloister or in the meditation hall or in the eating room, that they began to look at one another. And one would look at the other and think, "Oh, this is Brother Philip. How dedicated he's been to his task of writing the scriptures, doing the magnificent drawings that are around the edges of the pages." And then the other would look, "Oh, but there's Brother Philip. Oh, he's tended our vegetable garden all of these long decades. Could it be that he is the Messiah?" And so the days went on, and each monk would look at the other, seeing them, recognizing their qualities, and ending it always with, "Could it be, is it possible that this is the Messiah?" And strangely, very strangely, an amazing thing began to happen. A light began to grow inside the monastery walls. It grew brighter and brighter. And outside, in the little garden that is in front of the chapel of the monastery, flowers began to bloom where they had not grown for long, long years. And children began to come and play. Even their parents came and started to have picnics in the little garden. And then several of the young people came in to the chapel and began to have conversation with the old monks who conducted the services there. And so it went on, as we can well imagine. It grew and grew and grew. People began to come, not only to the chapel in the monastery garden, but to the churches, to the temples, to the synagogues. We can ask ourselves, how do these stories give us the possibility of answering the question, what is this love that remains when human love in all its forms has played itself out in our life? What is this love that remains when human love